Welcome back to the team room, everybody. We're doing a series, right? And the series is called One OR Personality That You Love and One Personality That You Hate. Guess which one it is today. Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm not the one that you like. And we're with Trent sitting in the team room. We hear you. We're going to try to answer some questions. They're all going to be
tattoos.
Yes, tattoos. Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
I thought we were going to talk about PJ tattoos and when you should get one.
No. I already addressed that on a different podcast. I've talked about why I don't have my green feet. Trent, this is about you. Stop trying to make it about me. You know how this is going to go. First off, we'd like to say thanks for following, liking, subscribing. Please go leave a review, leave a, go subscribe to all the stuff on Spotify or on Apple or anywhere you listen to your podcast. It actually does help. It's free. Just like and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button if you would, and make sure that you guys are following us everywhere we are. Go check out One's Ready for new merch drops and all the good stuff, and on all of our partners. We got a reading list on there. There's a ton of stuff that you can find. So always start with gratitude. Thanks, y'all. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Moving on, we get these questions all the time. We're going to do a deep dive. Special reconnaissance. So the man, the myth, the legend, the Trent Segmiller is going to talk special reconnaissance, and we're going to answer every single possible question that we have. And we're going to try to build this one. So follow me here, baby birds. Get in line, little baby ducks. We're going to try to go from start to finish, to cradle to grave, and we're going to answer all of these questions. So we'll put it in the timestamps down below. We'll make sure that you understand where it is that we're talking about stuff, but we're going to talk from the very beginning of the pipeline and the SWOE process. So Trent, step one for a special reconnaissance person. Number one, you got to look good. Number two, you have to not suck. So those are steps one and step two. One, look good. Two, don't suck. But after you get those knocked out, you're going to go talk to a special operations recruiter. How does the process look from the very start?
Same way it does for pararescue, combat control, and TAC-P. You go to the recruiter and figure out how to get yourself into the Air Force, which is, I think it's easy for us to forget how big of a hurdle that is. Just to get into the Air Force, especially these days, and then also to be qualified for these AFSCs. So, that's what you need to focus on first thing. Get in there, make sure you're physically and medically qualified, and then really start to look at your physical fitness. As you look towards the IFT, so that you can be competitive for the job that you actually want, and not the job that someone else wants to give you.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to back it all the way up. So, in order to find a recruiter, go to askbackwar.com. and use the find a recruiter function. We've talked about it a million times, and we talked about how long you should wait to hear back from a recruiter. Check the other podcasts. We'll throw some cards in there of recruiters, like no kidding, talking about this and letting you know, like, you're not the only person in the world. They have 100 other candidates, blah, blah, blah. So go to aspectwar.com, or airforce.com, and find the find a recruiter tab. You can put one in by zip code, and you can actually get to a special operations recruiter. The difference between a special operations recruiter and normal Air Force recruiter, they both know the same stuff. It's just special operations recruiters are a little bit more sensitive to the special warfare career fields. You're going to go into what Trent described as the SWOE program, Special Warfare Operator Enlistment Vector Program. So Trent, speaking specifically to SR, when you go into special warfare, is the recruiter going to tell you, okay, 100%, you have a guaranteed contract, you're going in for SR?
No, and this is, even if I take a step back, just like everything else, having some education before you walk into a situation where you're going to start asking questions is going to be, very, very important, so that you can ask the correct questions and get the correct data. If you walk into your recruiter and you're like, hey, I'm interested in being something like, a Navy SEAL or something, then you're going to get responses that are very, very vague, and it's not going to give you the data that you want to get. They're going to be like, oh, well, these guys are kind of like the same thing, but you started out the process, the questions in a not very precise way. So you're going to get not very precise answers. So then once you get into the pipeline, and you should understand this going in, it is an open enlistment for special warfare. And everybody's always like, well, how do I get the job that I want? It's just like everything else in this community. It's based on your performance. TAC-P, pararescue, SR, CCT, they all come in open. The TAC-Ps get picked out of the SWCC course, the Special Warfare Candidate course, a little bit earlier to go on their vector, because their pipeline's a little bit different, and the rest of us go on to be assessed and selected. I know I jumped ahead, and Aaron's giving me the look like, dude, we're baby birding this, and stop jumping ahead. Yeah.
I even said, this is meant to be the SR deep dive to end SR deep dives. This is supposed to be the one.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to end.
No, we got it. So when Trent says you're going in open, it's not like you're going in open general. You're not just going, okay, I want to be in the Air Force. You're going those 4 career fields that we talked about, TAC-P, Special Reconnaissance, Pararescue, Combat Control. They're all in the same bucket. It's like going in people hate when we compare ourselves to the other services, but when you go into the Army, there used to be a thing called the 18 X-ray program where you didn't know what you wanted to do. You didn't know if you wanted to be a medical sergeant or a weapons sergeant or an engineer or the other shutouts of the 18 series, but you wanted to be an Army Special Forces Green Beret. This is like that, but better because we're in the Air Force. So
it really
you're going in, you're putting your name up. You're like, I want to be a special operator in the Air Force. And you're going to go into the SWOE program. So Special Warfare Operator Enlistment Vector. They have their own acceptance standards. Trent, what's the ASVAB score?
50.
It's 50.
49, 50 or 49.
It's if you score a 50, you're in. If you score a 49, you're out. Yeah.
Yeah. Score 50, kids.
Yeah. There you go.
Well,
so you score a 50.
Or score way higher than a 50. Just throwing it out there.
That would be better. I'm not saying you can't make it with a 50. I'm just saying it's probably going to be tough. So you go in and some of those physical requirements, we had a whole episode. I will mark it here. Oh, look, there's a little mark button. Bam. I'm going to mark this right here. Here.
How did you do that? How did you?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I did. So we're going to mark to the IFT, CFT, and OFT fitness test. You're going to need an initial fitness test for you to go in. I'm going to pull it up right now. Trent is going to talk in general about what the the Air Force Special Warfare IFT is. So Trent, just describe it in general, and then I'll pull up the actual numbers that they have to hit in order to be qualified.
Well, generally speaking, it's the easiest physical test you're going to take in your career if you make it. And I know that's way too general. You got a 1.5 mile run. You got your cals or your. Sorry, we'll start with cals. Pull-ups, and then sit-ups, push-ups, 1.5 mile run, 2 25-meter underwaters, and then a 500-meter swim.
That's true. So I've got it right in front of me, the latest things right now to qualify for PJ, CCT, TAC-P, and SR are as follows. You got to do pull-ups, and these are all on a time limit. And we've talked about it in the IFT, CFT episode, but we'll go over it here briefly. You have to do pull-ups. You get a 2-minute break. You need a minimum of 8. You got to do 50 sit-ups. Or I'm sorry, then you move on to your sit-ups. You need 50 sit-ups at a minimum after the pull-ups. Then we go to the push-ups. You need a minimum of 40. Ladies and gentlemen, these numbers are not high for a reason. This is your entry just to get into the program. After a 10-minute rest period, after your push-ups, you're going to move into your 1.5 mile run, which Trent mentioned. That's going to be a 10:20. So a minimum of 10:20 for people out there that don't want to do math. That's just under a 7-minute pace. So if a 7-minute pace would be 10:30 for a 1.5 miles, and that math checks. I had to do it before we came on here, but it does. So you have to be under 10:20. You get a 30-minute rest, and then you have to do your underwaters. So your underwaters need to be on a 3-minute rest period. So you'll have a 30-minute break to get into the pool, and then a 25-meter underwater. You'll have a 3-minute break, and then another 25-meter underwater, and then you go into the 500-meter swim. That's in 15 minutes or less. Okay. So assuming that you've done everything that you're supposed to physically, you're qualified, you don't have any felonies on your record, you don't have any serious drug abuses, you don't have any surgeries, you don't have any weird medical diagnoses. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, and maybe we'll put another little mark in here to get you to one of the FAQ episodes. But as long as all those things are clear and the IFT is good, you are now going to enter in to the development program. And let me lay this out for you. Again, you do not have a job yet. You may think you want to be a special reconnaissance airman. You know that that's the only thing that you're going to want to do. You're going to come home with your shield or on it. You're going to burn every boat behind you. Who's going to carry the goats? That person is you, my guy. So you know that you're going to do it, but you still don't have a job. Okay. So you're going to enter into the development program as a hopeful SR candidate, but you don't have a guaranteed contract. So people get all up in arms on this. We're like, wow, they're not giving me a contract. No, they totally are, but it's on you to perform. So Trent, talk a little bit about the development program and what goes on there.
I mean, it's exactly what you think. You're going to get not only the physical development through very focused training iterations with your developer, but your developers out there are also there to mentor you, to tell you about their experiences in the community and people that they've met and things that they've seen, to get you in the right mindset. The last one I was at it was really pretty awesome. The development session was good, but then the developer was like, "Hey guys, you're all here. I gotta go, but it doesn't look like you all have a lot to do. maybe knock out another workout together, maybe talk to each other, maybe set up another thing where I can't be everywhere at once. And just getting you into that mindset of lifestyle versus, hobbyist when it comes to these types of things, and really putting yourself out there and working hard and all that other stuff. So that's what you're going to do. You have to go through a few development sessions before they'll sign off on you. And not every development session is just an IFT. They're going to try to get you in the water. And obviously this is like a nationwide program, right? And nationwide and beyond. And so getting the correct resources and getting pools and everything, I know it's challenging in different parts of the country. But they're doing their best. And we spend a lot of money on this as a force to make sure that the candidates or the people out there that are wannabe candidates have access to the resources that the rest of us didn't, like that. Who knows how many folks in the middle of Iowa never even heard of us, like I never had the opportunity, never had the resources. There's no swimming pools or whatever. It's like, that's what this is for, is if you're interested, we're going to bring the resources to you a little bit, which, bothers some of us older guys, just a little bit.
Of course. How dare you guys get something I didn't get? But
to give you the best possible chance to make it, right? Like, they're going to lead you to water, but you got to drink it. Not literally, don't be drinking the water on your 25 meter underwater. It's not recommended. That's
not going to work, right? So the greatest things, Peaches and I had the distinct pleasure of going to a couple of these development sessions too. We hit one over in Dayton, Ohio. It was awesome. And it was awesome exactly for the reasons that you said, Trent. It's because you have, maybe they're not all the time, so not every single developer out there was a prior AF Spec War Airman, but what they get is Rangers, Army Green Berets, other special forces from other branches, other people that have done hard assessment selections in the military, and then they're trained and sensitized to Air Force special warfare. So they're going to give you the experience that they have to get you where you need to be. And the other part of it that I wanted to hit too is you're going to start establishing that community. You're going to start in that development program, just like Trent said. You're going to meet friends. You're going to meet training partners. You're going to meet people that you didn't know that become friends, become training partners. And this is a new one, Trent. Get ready. I'm going to mark this clip right here. So before you can be a subject matter expert, you have to be a subject matter enthusiast. You have to really care about what it is that you're doing, because as I've always said, and Trent has never said this, excellence is a habit. But you have to establish that habit somewhere, and you got to start making those moves towards your goal. And the development program is where you're really going to start doing that in earnest. Because I bet the first couple development sections you go to, you may think you're in good shape. You may think you're ready to go. You may have all of the information in the world, and you've listened to all of our podcasts, and you know all of the requirements. When the rubber meets the road, it's a little bit different. And that development program from T3I is where you're going to start feeling that difference. And oh, by the way, then you're going to get that mentorship from somebody that's been there and done that. And that's super duper valuable. And we saw that the question and answer section and the mentorship section was longer than the physical portion of the development session I went to, way longer. Because just, dudes and gals being bros and dudes sitting around talking later, that part was more valuable than any of the push-ups that we did.
Well, because it's like, as a developer, I might only have you for like an hour and a half to 3 hours per month, whatever. But right. You have you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Like, that's where it matters. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. And if you're serious about it, you'll figure that out, and you'll make the most of those development sessions. Speaking specifically about development, there are a minimum number, like you have to get signed off on your developer. He or she is going to give you that blessing to go. Something they always ask, Trent, I'll ask you directly. Okay, when am I ready to go? What magic numbers do I need to hit to where I'm actually ready to get into the Air Force?
It's a very personal question for everybody.
It is a very personal question. And I like it too, because nobody agrees. If you ask 5 of us this question, you'll get 40 different opinions, which is cool.
Well, it's like everything else. So the more data you have, the harder it is to answer this question. We know people that with the correct mindset will hit the bare minimums and be on that growth trajectory and enter the pipeline. And this is unusual, just so you all know, and just grind and hit minimums for the entire pipeline, and then get on team and actually be really good at what they're doing. But the amount of willpower expended for that person to get through the pipeline is ridiculous. Like, those people are crazy. Yeah,
100%. How do you live your life? It's like, the meme of Hillary Clinton where she walks into the apartment. She's like, oh my God, how do you live like this? And it's just like a normal apartment. How do you live just making the mins? That's a crazy thing.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. You're just always riding the lightning, baby. Always on that red line.
I'm definitely more like the other person that is like, I'm too lazy to like have to work hard at every PT test that I go to. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather put in the work like every day.
What a ridiculously, what a hard statement to try to unpack. So what you just said was you're too lazy to have to try your hardest at a PT test. So you're going to try hard in order to be lazy.
Yeah. But if I do like just regular workouts on a regular basis, then when it comes time for the PT test, like it's not that hard as long as I'm consistent with everything. Right. And then they're like, oh my goodness, you have to go out here and like run in a 9 or whatever and do these things. Like I would rather not. I don't know. And also I like the cushion, right? I don't want to be like, I have to max myself out to hit the minimums today. It's like, I would like to know that I can go out there and run like a 60% and pass.
Right.
It's comfortable for me.
100%. We've talked about it a billion times at this point, billions and billions of time. We talked about it a bunch of times, but it gives you the bandwidth to be okay. The further away you are from that red line, the further you are away from those minimums, the better you're going to be. So as far as when you're ready to go in and when you're going to be ready for the pipeline, hey, that's going to be on you. You can go in doing the minimums if you want, or you could wait another 2 years and you could go in doing graduation standards of the SR pipeline, whatever those, whatever numbers you attach to that. Really, it's going to be on you. It's just how long do you want to wait and how comfortable do you want to be? There are some indicators that we figured out through data analysis. Shout out to everybody that's actually doing the right thing down at A&S and getting these numbers. Trent, there are a couple different factors that lead directly to success at A&S. What have we found out, even before you go in, what have we found out that will lead to bigger rates of success at A&S?
Better run times.
Better run times, lower run times. 10:20 is the bare minimum. If you're running a 9:30, right? Like let's say that you are just an absolute physical stud and I put the physical stud kind of marker at like 8:45. That is a fast as crap mile and a half, right? Like I would have to train for months. I don't even know if I could do it. Like maybe my dumb lizard brain right now is like, oh, well, maybe I'll try to get down to that and I'll see how long it takes. And then I remembered how bad I hate running and how much I, say things in the morning when I don't mean them.
I believe in you.
Thanks. Running, stop. Anyway, so, but if you're running an 8:45, that is fast as crap, right? Like that is physical specimen zone. If you're running that person that runs an 8:45, they can slow down and run a 9:15. They can slow down and give themselves a break by 30 seconds and still be a minute ahead of time. That person is not going to have a lot of problems. Exactly what Trent was talking about. Those lower run times really do translate to higher rates of success. And it's not because the course favors faster runners. That's not the point. That point is that leads to a cardiorespiratory and physical fitness level. Those things correlate to a fitness level that is more likely to graduate at A&S. So those lower run times, we're not saying focus only on your run. We're saying when your run is at a great time where you're well ahead of the standard and your cows are well ahead of the standard, you're going to have an easier time getting through. Again, if you're right at those minimums and you have to redline just to make the 10:20 timeline, that ain't going to work in week 3, week 4, further on. Like it's just not going to.
No. And I always recommend people go check out Taylor Starch, right? Because they're like, well, if I'm a runner, there's this misconception that if you're a runner, you also can't lift things, right? And first of all, there's a dude that, what did he do? Squat 500 pounds in the same day, ran a sub 5-minute mile on team out there.
Leah, we're going to have him on the podcast. He's training right now at the Olympic Training Center for skeleton because now he's literally an Olympic level athlete. He's a combat controller named Matt Beach. Matt squatted 500 pounds and ran a sub 5 mile on the same day. Yeah.
And I mean, he's a big guy. And then you go look at Taylor Starch, but like you look at Taylor Starch and you're like, look at the weights that he moves around too. And he's not a big guy, but he can run forever. So like, don't get caught up in like these body types or these misconceptions that, runners are runners. And just because you've seen marathon runners, like that's not what we're talking about. Right. And lifters are lifters. Like you need to be well-rounded. So having that huge aerobic baseline, also being able to carry some weight. Like I can't imagine that doing more farmers carries are going to hurt you for your grip strength and also carrying weight around. Like, cause that's a huge part of what we do. So, just don't get caught up in any of the nonsense and all the data from the 80s that was 180 degrees off from what reality actually is.
100%. There's some other factors that help with A&S. Trent, can you come up with another factor that leads to success at ANS?
Yeah, and I was going to talk about this a little bit earlier. When you first get into your dev pool, is your ego and teamwork and all this other stuff that you're going to have to confront. So there's a few things, right? Like you're a composite of the 5 people you spend the most time around, right? So when you get into that dev pool and you start making that community, you may either have to check your ego because you're not as good as you thought you were, and you're going to have to make friends with people that are better than you, and that might be a new experience for you. Or you might come in and be like the number one person, like throughout your entire dev experience. And you're going to have to learn how to learn from the people below you, or not below you, but like in that environment that you're outperforming.
It's okay to say below you. Hierarchies are a thing, Trent, and there is somebody that is the best. And it's okay to say that you are better than other people. It's not okay to be an elitist.
Yeah, but I'm smarter than that guy, so. Just kidding.
Fair.
You know what I mean.
That guy was me. I'm the one who said it. So,
but yeah, like learn how to get along with your team, learn how to help people out and give advice without coming across a certain way, and how to make your team better, right? And those are all skill sets that you need to develop before you get to ANS, because you can't go to ANS and be like, all of a sudden, I'm going to learn how to be a good teammate. I'm going to turn it on. Because you're not going to have the energy to be that person in front of the cadre, and then to also be that person when you go back to your hooch at night, surrounded by these people that you haven't developed relationships with.
Yeah, that's true. We used to say that your reputation started day one of INDOC. We used to tell people all the time, there's going to be no light bulb that comes on when you get your beret. At the end of this pipeline, there's not going to be a magic scroll that you're given that the instructors will be like, here you go. And you're like, oh, I'm a good dude. My reputation starts now. The only thing different about that statement is now we back it up. Now we're putting eyes on you a year, sometimes a year and a half before you get in the Air Force. And those people that you're in development with, those are going to be your peers throughout your entire career. You're going to know those people. If you both stay in for 20 years, if you both make it through your pipelines, you're going to know those people and work with those people for the next 2 decades of your life. So dumb stuff that you do, okay, we all have dumb stories about our friends, but they're going to know if you're a good person or not. And you can't just turn it on. You have to start working on yourself there. One more thing that does lead to success in ANS, it's a little something we like to call time on feet. Trent, you want to talk about what time on feet is?
It's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to be spending a lot of time on your feet.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of research. Been a lot of people talking about this stuff. It's you just need to spend more time on your feet. Like, it's a different world we live in than a lot of us grew up in. And yet, not only is it easier to spend more time, like sitting down, staring at a screen or whatever, like it's expected in a lot of ways. Like if you're in college and all those other things, or high school, so find a way to spend more time on your feet. Like if you go for a run, go for a walk afterwards. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but the number of issues we have with the muscular skeletal issues, lower leg issues, it's huge, and it's going to cause problems. So, and that starts in BMT. You're going to spend a lot of time on your feet in BMT, and you're going to go to SWCC, spend a lot of time on your feet. At ANS, you're going to spend a lot of time on your feet, and then we're going to try to drown you in between those things. So, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be totally great. There's a lot of research to suggest, 4 to 10,000 steps a day has ridiculous health benefits. The only reason that study even exists is because the scientific community looked at humans today and they're like, wow, these dudes sit around a lot. They are not on their feet at all. And we see that in lower leg injuries, shin splints, and all these other things. So the more time that you can stand on your feet, if you can stand. Whatever you're doing in your life, put your weight on your legs, walk around. I know that it might be a short trip to the grocery store. Maybe it's a mile away or something. Maybe walk that mile. Maybe one time a week, go take a walk. You don't even necessarily have to ruck. We're not telling you that you need to do these huge rucking programs for ANS. There's newsflash, boys and girls. There's not a rucking standard. None of our PT tests right now have a rucking standard. You're going to be held to a standard on rucks. But until you get to the CFT and the OFT, or the CFT, does it have a ruck?
Yeah.
Okay, so the CFT has a ruck. The ruck is exceptionally easy. It's not fast at all. And for the shape that you're going to be in, it's not fast. And I'll tell you, the OFT, as a matter of fact, like everything else has a minimum, that ruck has a maximum. Like it just says, get this done in 49 minutes and you're good. But the point is to try to get it done as close to that time limit as you possibly can. It's not fast. It's not heavy. when you do that over and over and over again, it leads to those lower leg injuries. So get time on your feet. Make sure that your run times are low. Give yourself a little bit of bandwidth and really start developing yourself and indoctrinating yourself into the culture, right? If you're behind, you need to catch up. If you're ahead, you need to reach back and help those people behind you because you guys are going as a team. The other thing that we just dropped, the other thing that's going to happen inside of your development phase is the folks down at SWCC, which we're going to talk about in a second, the Special Warfare Candidate Course. They have designed a 16-week program, or it's a 20-week program, a 20-week program for pre-accession strength conditioning, cardiorespiratory fitness. It's a whole workout program meant to take you through 20 weeks of preparation prior to you getting to BMT. We are going to drop it here as soon as we can. It's in the final stages of getting approved. We are going to blast that thing out wide. So go check out the Discord. Go check out our onesready.com page. We're going to link to it. We're going to have this thing for y'all. Let me just have some expectation management. You might personally look at this program and go, oh, I don't need this. And it's way further. But no, that's the baseline. Okay. If you're crushing your IFT, if you're getting, top 95%, if you're king of the development program or queen of the development program, wherever it is that you are, fine. It might not be for you, but for 95% of the other people, this program is really going to get you ready for the stresses that you're going to see, because from what I understand, it focuses on a lot of the weak areas. They basically looked at where are students failing and what are we seeing that's weak. And then they designed a program to shore up those weaknesses to make you a more well-rounded athlete. So that's coming out soon. Can't wait to see it. The Special Warfare Candidate Course folks are amazing. They're awesome. We just did a full deep dive with all those cats, and we're going to have a swim coach on because somebody hopped up in the comments because we were bagging on swim coaches, and they were like, let us come on and talk about how good the swim coaches are because you guys gave us crap. I was like, all right, tight. We're going to have a swim coach on too. So it'll be our second swim coach on if you count Half Acre, if you count Jeb.
I count Jeb. Jeb's awesome. What if I want a more like personalized workout program though, that from somebody that definitely knows how to make me successful, not only for the IFT, but the entire pipeline? Where would I go for that?
I'm glad you brought that up. I would go to 18 Alpha Fitness myself. So Coach Kevin Edgerton runs 18 Alpha Fitness. He was a prior 18 Alpha guy. So the 18 X-ray, he was an officer. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He was a strength and conditioning coach in the AFSPEC War training wing for a long time. And then he went his own way, and he's devoted his life and his business interests towards helping candidates get ready for every single assessment selection out there. So Edge walks people through from cradle to grave. Like you can do all this on your own. I'm a testament to that. Like you can be stupid and you can train on your own and you can actually make it. I'll tell you what, it was not easy for me. And I wish that I had Coach Edgerton because he gives video coaching. He gives personalized workout plans. He has plans not just for assessment selection, but if you want to be a better jiu-jitsu practitioner, man, go get his kettlebell for jiu-jitsu fitness program. It is a life changer. It is completely different. Edge and I have been in talks. I am going to test that program all the way through. I'm recovering from a little surgery, and as soon as I'm clear to work out 100% again, I'm going to Coach Edge, and I'm getting that jiu-jitsu kettlebell for a jiu-jitsu program. So go check him out, 18 Alpha Fitness. You can find him on anything that we do because we tag him in everything. So go look at 18 Alpha Fitness. We have a code for you, as always, because he's a good friend of ours, and we want to collaborate to help you get not just through the pipeline, but through your entire career, right? Like just make you strong, durable, harder to kill. Check out 18 Alpha Fitness. The code is 1, like the number 1, ready, all in one word. Code 1 ready over at 18 Alpha Fitness. Go check out Coach Edge and that program. All right, y'all, welcome back. Little technical difficulties because I'm an idiot, but we all know this. So we just got done talking about 18 Alpha Fitness. Go check them out. 1 ready. That's our code over with 18 Alpha Fitness. Go check them out. So that gets us to basic training. And Trent was saying just before we hit record here the second time, are we only at basic training? Yes. All right. So you're in the SWOE program. Again, you do not have a job yet. You're just in a bucket of people that want to be special warfare operators. They don't know what it is. You think you want to be an SR person, Airmen, tight. So we're going to BMT. Is there anything different for the SR candidates in BMT?
Yeah. There's some of our coaches go over there. You get some separate workouts. You get some pool time.
You're in your own flight.
It's not going to be stuff that's going to make you better. And especially because you're in BMT and your cortisol levels are jacked up because you're in a new environment. I don't care who you are. It's a stressful environment. And so you're going to have a little extra PT. Excuse me. I get I get all excited to talk about basic training,
I love it. It's a gateway to the Air Force, Trent. Everybody loves it. So
Yeah.
the other thing that you want to think about during BMT, hey, I get that you want to be a high speed, door kicking, drone flying, electromagnetic spectrum having, pewter beret wearing, or you guys are gray. Pewter is SERE. Oh man, imagine. You want to be this high speed airman that's tight. You have to be in the Air Force first. You have to give all of your attention to BMT. We have harped on it a bunch of times. I get it. You're going to be in AFSPEC war. This is not something to gloss over, because if you suck at BMT, people are going to realize that when there's a challenge that you don't think is important to you, you don't give it your 100%. Trent, go ahead, Trent.
A bunch of Navy SEALs don't have to go through like Navy boot camp, just like everybody else.
No, they do.
Oh,
yeah.
And Green Berets and Rangers and MARSOC bros, everybody has to go through their service boot camp and just.
What if I told you that the highest speed operators in every single service, SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, Marines, they all have to go through basic training. And guess what? If you suck at basic training, your friends look at you and they go, oh, you can't even do basic training, right? Oh, okay, cool. No, I'm sure you're going to be the highest speed special operator. Again, there's no light switch. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. Shout out to Dan Holloway and Citizen Pod. I stole your statement, but no big deal. You're smarter than me. You have a way bigger following. Nobody even hears this. So
he's got the beard. It's the beard for Dan.
Fantastic. So we get through basic training, right? Done. We move on. We go to SWCC. We just did a whole episode on SWCC, so we're not going to get too far into it. What are some things? The biggest thing that I want to talk about for SR and SWCC is that this is where you're going to declare what you want to be assessed for. Okay. So at about how long is it in SWCC? Where do they declare for which job?
So I think in basic, you put down on a piece of paper what you want to do.
Okay.
And then in SWCC, you do the same thing. And in SWCC, it's more to parse out between TAC-Ps and the GA-ST, Guardian Angel ST guys, Special Tactics guys.
Yep.
And then when you get to ANS is when the actual determination is made. But it's when you start to like really figure out where you want to go. And so it's little steps first, right? Like, do you want to go TAC-P? Or do you want to go this other way? Like, do you want to be a combat diver, or do you want to be a land animal? And it is what it is. And I'm not saying TAC-Ps can't swim. There's a lot of great swimmers over there. TAC-Ps, I love you. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not sorry. What am I apologizing for?
7 million of them. Like, just by sheer numbers, it'd be really bad to make all those dudes mad. Like, if I'll tell you what, if those TAC-P kids could read and ever coordinate, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Thank goodness. Yeah. Sorry, Rose. So you're gonna finally raise your hand and say, okay, I want to be an SR airman. One time in basic, and then in SWCC, they're going to evaluate you, and they'll be like, okay, cool. You get out of SWCC. There is a little bit of something called PRT. We're not going to talk too much about it. It's very super secret. It's got a whole bunch of stuff. Like you were gonna. It's a good one. So we'll let you decide how much you like it after you're done. And then it's a quick trip over, and we go to assessment selection. Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you put forth all of those things that you've been training for, all of the months and possibly years that you spent training for it. You got to go to ANS. We have the secret for you, everybody. We have the number one thing that you can do to get picked up. Be a good dude and put out. Easy, right? Every single podcaster in the world says the same thing. Well, the Air Force
so cliche now.
Yeah, be a good dude and put out. There you go. Now, so we've talked about ANS a million times. Assessment selection. It's an attributes based selection model. There are several attributes that they're looking for. They want to see you holistically perform as a person that has the raw material. Right? We're buying you. You are raw material. So essentially, the cadre are looking at all of this raw material. You might start with 110 folks, and they're looking at 110 folks, and they're going, okay, who has the raw materials that we need to build you into the operator that we're going to need for the next fight? That's no kidding what they're doing. And it's everything from psychological evaluation to physical evaluation to personal evaluation. They want to see everything that you do lead to being a better operator. Assessment selection is 4 weeks long. And at the end of assessment selection, you've been assessed, and then they will select you. So Trent, can you talk us through how to get the job you want? We've raised our hand. We say, I want to be an SR operator. How does that work through assessment?
So every career field gets a percentage of the selects, right? Based on the size of the career field. And it's one of those weird things where the percentages usually just kind of work out, like based on how many folks want to be PJs selects, how many selects want to be PJs combat controllers and SR guys. And so I think SR is getting like 10 to 15% of the selects right now. And then these numbers vary a little bit throughout the year, right? Like if we have fewer people one select class that want to be SR and more the next class, like so the percentages just have to kind of work out at the end of the year. And so we try to give the performers what they want. But if you're at the bottom of the class and there's only one thing left and it's, something that wasn't your number one choice, at that point, your choice is be part of the community or don't be part of the community.
Right.
And here,
yeah. And here are the options. I love boiling it down to like brass tacks. Option number one is you put out, you're a good dude or dudette, and you get selected for the job that you want. This happens 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. Almost 99% of the time, if you make it through, you're selected, and the instructors say you have the raw material that we want, and they have the percentage available for you, you're going to get your job. So we say 99%. I still haven't I don't think we've still had anybody come back and be like, well, I was selected, but they told me I couldn't have my number one job. I had to take my number two. I still haven't heard that story yet.
We've had Chief Nate Cox on the podcast. And I don't know if you notice, he's a pretty straight shooter. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he would lie to me about this.
No,
so
he hasn't. Yeah. So
this is where I get it from.
Yeah, we say 99%. We mean 100%, but when you start speaking in absolutes, that's when people on the internet start, well, actually. So listen, okay, 99%, you're going to get your job. That's COA 1. COA 2, course of action number 2, is that you get selected. However, they don't have room for you in your career field. And by the way, this means that you didn't perform. This means that other people beat you out, right? So when we're talking about this thing here, it's you made it through the assessment, you were selected, but you weren't good enough to get into the top spots. If there were 5 spots, this means you placed 6th. So again, the number one thing that you can do to get your job is perform and be the best. To quote Chief TJ Gunnell, be the best. It's a competition. It's a job interview, but these people are trying to take your job. You want the job? Go win. If you don't win and you're still selected, you could have the opportunity to do a different job. And as you just said, and it was perfect the way you said it, you're either going to be in the community or you're not. Let's say you're trying to be a special reconnaissance airman and you don't make the cut for special reconnaissance, but they tell you that you can go. They're like, hey, your skills are good. We want you to go try to be a TAC P. Your skills are good. We want you to try to go be a controller. If you want to stomp your feet and you don't want to accept that, okay, that's fine. Maybe go do a different job in the Air Force. And, thanks for coming out. The third COA that you can have here is that you won't be selected. There's a couple of different things can happen here. Maybe you're just not good enough for the job. Maybe you weren't physically prepared. Maybe the cadre saw something in you that they thought wasn't going to be conducive to being a good candidate. Whatever that is, you cannot quit. You can get all the way through and you cannot be selected. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
That's fine. There's it just like how like 99% of the people get what they want that are selected. 99% of the people that are not selected, it's because of physical performance.
Right.
Like we don't have, like, we're selecting for the base standard here to get in the community, which you have to be a pretty terrible person for that to be the reason, the sole reason why you don't get picked up. You know what I mean? Because like there's and we select people with reservations. Like if you're at the bottom of the select pool, your paperwork is probably going to be like select with reservations, right? Like keep an eye on this person. But if you're not picked up, more than likely it's just physical performance. Like you didn't say I quit, but it's just like, hey, you're last at everything. You're not, you're just not there yet. And this is not a personal process. This is a very impersonal process, and people are just assessing you. I mean, like, come back in 2 years. That's right. Almost always what happens. Like, hey, good try. Come on back. Give it another go.
And you'll get good feedback. They'll tell you why it is that you didn't make it. They'll tell you what it is that you need to work on. You'll get a good out brief and you'll understand it before you part ways with the Chapman Training Annex and get over there. But, to be honest with you, it's pretty cut and dry, because if you didn't meet the physical standard or you quit, we know what happened. Like, what happened. You don't even need somebody to tell you.
That's what I'm saying. Like we hear every once in a while, like, oh, they didn't sit me down and like give me like line by line what I didn't do right. It's like, hey, if you can't see where you stacked up with everybody else, if you had no idea that you were in the back of the pack, then maybe this wasn't for you anyway.
Right.
At least not today. Like if your ego can't overcome the fact that you weren't performing as well as everybody else,
right?
And you're lying to yourself, then give it some space, figure it out, and then maybe come back.
Right. Yeah. Not quitting is the expectation. That's not the end goal. Not quitting is the expectation. That is the bottom of the barrel. Like you're not. Yeah. No kidding. You're not supposed to quit. All right. So assessment selection happens. You're good. That's a 4-week time period. And immediately, so you graduate that course on a Friday, and on Monday, you enter pre-dive, because SR are all divey boys now. What's that?
They're all divey boys.
All divey boys.
You know, pre-dive is exactly what it says. It's getting you ready for dive school. So, psychologically for the students, pre-dive is the first time that you're not going to get babysat. You show up, you do your job, you do exactly what you're told with the equipment that you're told to show up with. And then you go back, you recover, you eat as much as you can, show up the next day, knock out these tasks. It's a very task driven course. And there are things that you have to do, the standards you have to meet before we're going to ship you off to dive school. So A&S is like a point where we decide to invest more in you because you've shown that you're willing to invest back the other way. And then pre-dive is really where you show that you're 100% invested in the process. You're going to do exactly what you have to do to get through the rest of the pipeline.
Yeah. And to make it through. And that's a great point. You know, that this is the first time. Assessment and selection is, do you have the raw materials that we need to build you into this? And when you move into pre-dive, it's like, okay, well, the cadre have essentially co-signed for you at that point. They're like, we think that this person can make it through the pipeline. And then pre-dive is your first opportunity to prove that. No more, you know, it's, I wouldn't say it's like you're not fully a real boy yet or fully a real girl yet, but you're getting closer. It's not, you're not getting smoked for absolutely everything. That if you show up and you, to quote Mr. Capobianco, who runs the pre-dive along with Mr. Kilbride, if you show up and you do your job, you're going to get left alone. Show up, train, be motivated, get the task done in the appropriate timeline, and you're going to breeze right through. It's going to be awesome. And now, poof, we're in the pipeline. First stop, Combat Dive School. Combat Dive School is what Combat Dive School is. It's a 6-week course, multiple infiltration methods. You'll learn salvage diving and open circuit techniques, infiltration and closed circuit techniques. There's a bunch of surface swims. There's the, you know, it's basically split up into 3 weeks is the initial dive portion. It's, you know, your open water week, then your pool week, and then your dive week. You're going to dive down to 105 feet. You're going to do search dives. You're going to do blacked out navigation dives. You're going to do the same thing at night in open circuit. Then you transfer over to closed circuit. And you're going to do the same thing to include a full mission profile where you have to infill, go over the beach, perform a simulated mission. There's a huge graduation event. Dive school is awesome. It's also super duper hard. Good thing we have a whole pre-dive to set you up for it. Attrition rates out of dive school aren't that big, you know, for this reason. You know, we're doing really well at dive school. You go to the Air Force Dive School in Panama City, Florida. So down at the NDSTC, which is the Navy Dive Training and Something Center. I don't know.
Overly complicated acronym. And
exactly. Yeah. No reason. You know, PT is still a thing. It's definitely a challenging course. It's definitely not a gentleman's course, but you're treated a little bit more like a grown up. And you're going to see this kind of as a theme throughout the pipeline. The more that you have behind you, the less that people are going to kind of screw around with you. So we hit dive. Not a lot to talk about there. We're going to do a deep dive on the dive school as soon as we do. Then you go on to your other infiltration schools. So talking Airborne, you know, you get to spend 3 weeks with your Army bros. It's really an Air Force appreciation course down at Fort Benning, Georgia. Nothing really to speak of here. You know, the Army has been rigging trucks and tanks to drop out of airplanes since the 1940s on static line. They're going to do the same with you. It's just your chute smaller. So as long as gravity is still a thing and as long as the aircraft is still opening your chute, the only thing you have to do here is really just clown on your Army bros, because the Army Josephs that attend this course, it's a great time for you to tell them that you're in the Air Force and make sure they know that you're better than them and we know it.
That's really all it comes down to. Keep your feet and knees together. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Feet and knees together. Yeah. Parachute landing fall and you're good.
And then you're going to go to SERE, which is like a vacation. It really is.
How dare you? I love SERE. SERE is great. So
it was a great time. That's what I'm saying. It was.
Yeah, SERE is really, really awesome. And this one is the first time where it's, you know, it's not as much physically stressing as it is mentally stressing. There are some physically stressing parts of it, and we're not going to get into it because you can't talk about it. But you're going to get the highest level of SERE training the DoD has to offer by SERE specialists. That's their whole life. Every single person that works at that organization lives and breathes being a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape specialist and instructor. And they're going to teach you everything that you need to know to work in today's weird environments. SERE, I've always said, is one of my favorite schools.
Oh my goodness. They talk about handcuffs the way the PJs talk about ropes.
They really do. They love handcuffs for whatever reason. Anyway,
SERE nerds.
Yeah. You'll be with other AFSPEC War folks too. So in your little flight at SERE, like you're going to be with nothing but AFSPEC War folks. So you'll be running around with your future PJ and controller bros. And it really is a good time. And as long as you go in a winter class, I won't make fun of you for being exceptionally soft.
I went in a winter class. So
yeah, because obviously you're
and
hard.
It was easier.
It was.
I'm not one of those guys that like tries to tell people like, oh, when I went through everything was harder. Since the moment I made it into the community, everything to get into my career field has only gotten more difficult. So
well, timing is everything. Your timing is impeccable. So there, the other thing that we'll hit here, and where does free fall into the pipeline for y'all now?
Well, it's a logistics thing. It's either going to be before or after the apprentice course. So the majority of folks are going to be before. People are like, why is free fall such an issue? There's a few different things, but there's one really positive thing is when we went through free fall, it was very basic. Like we're not strapping NVGs onto us. We're not actually like working up to the point where you need to be on team. It was just fall out of a plane, strap some equipment to you, pull at the right altitude, don't crash.
Yep.
But it's a lot more involved than it used to be. So while I understand that there's issues and you might spend a little bit of time on Chapman Annex just hanging out waiting for your free fall course, or things might seem a little, discombobulated, there's some goodness that comes out of that course. It's just we're working through the wickets right now, and it's going to get better soon. So maybe by the time this drops, we'll have some real solutions that are cleaning this up.
Right. Yeah. And the free fall course, like you said, when I went through, it was completely individually focused, right? I never did a grouping jump. There was like a long delay. The drop zone out there is huge. There was like a long delay getting off the ramp. And then when they kind of talked about grouping and they kind of talked about stacking, but they only did it. They were just like, avoid the person, like just don't run into each other and just land. It was like a beehive above the PI. That is not the way it is anymore. They do grouping jumps. They do stacking. They want the students to fly together. They want everybody to look like they're supposed to. All the way
offsets,
up to, bottom of the container open. Like nobody's pulling rip cords anymore. Everybody's jumping rucks in the correctly mounted, front mounted, non-lowered fashion. People are jumping with NVGs. You're NVG qualified, right out the gate. So it's good. Logistically, it does suck. There's a bottleneck there. Sorry. Newsflash, everybody. You're in the military. You're going to have to hurry up and wait every once in a while. And this is one of those times that you might have to hurry up and wait. So that gets us to the apprentice course. The apprentice course has gone through some changes. Let's talk about it. Tell me about the apprentice course.
The apprentice course is awesome. So the combat controllers and the SR guys show up to Pope kind of together, but there's differences, right? So like the combat controllers got to go through their air traffic control stuff because that's their job, is to manage austere airfields, to basically create and manage austere airfields.
Wait, so you're saying that a combat controller's primary job isn't to be a JTAC and it's to manage austere airfields?
It's their primary. Yeah. I mean, JTACery is part of it, calling for fires and all that other stuff. That's one of their main jobs.
You're saying that that's a qualification and not a whole job? Wow.
I know. We're gonna rub Peaches is gonna hate us forever.
I know, it's gonna be great.
But so like my guys go in there, you're gonna knock out a few of your SR line items real quick, and then you're gonna go into your shoot move communicate phase, your line nav, all that other stuff with your combat control compadres, and then the SR specific stuff is really exciting. We took all the best stuff from the Army as far as like the base level reconnaissance surveillance things. And we basically stole all their curriculum. We put it into our course. So you're going to have some like long range shooting. It's also your intro to SWOS, your drones for everybody out there. And, you're going to do your stalking lanes and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. So the apprentice course is killing it. Like the guys coming out of there, like I was talking to one of my buddies the other day, and it's like these students that were graduating these days are so far ahead of where we were. So, I mean, you can deep dive into exactly what we're doing, but like you got to get your like soldiering basics out of the way. And then we're going to intro you to the foundational special reconnaissance capabilities.
Right.
So it's not as much as you're going to want, which is coming, but it's going to whet your beak a little bit on all the really radical things that we're getting after.
And that's exactly what we do in every single other pipeline. Pararescue, you're not doing crazy rope systems. You're not doing crazy patient care. You're not doing crazy infiltration, the apprentice course. You're getting a baseline understanding of all of the different mission sets that you can do. And that's the same thing you're doing at the SRAC, the Special Reconnaissance Apprentice Course. So those are the things that you're getting done. And this is going to come up a couple different times because people hit us on it all the time. They're like, well, yeah, but tell it, like, why do you need recon? Why do you need those things? As you heard Trent just say, we took all of the things, like we took the training that the Army does. We took some of the training that the Marines do for recon. We took the pieces that will help Air Force teams, Air Force Special Tactics teams, get after Air Force specific problems. So no, we're not like Army Recon or LURS or CAV Scouts or whoever else does some sort of recon function. We're not saying that we're a Marine Force Recon or a MARSOC team. We're not saying that our SR guys are on par with Army Recon dudes. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying we took those skill sets, applied them to special warfare, saw where we could have a capability that would enhance Air Force Special Tactics teams and get after mission sets. And then we made a course to make that airman to get us there. So all of these cool things, right? The free fall, the dive, long distance shooting, close reconnaissance, far reconnaissance, to include electromagnetic warfare spectrum stuff, to include SWOS and counter SWOS stuff. Those are all things that we took and molded into a course to get after our own problem sets. Okay. The Air Force doesn't need recon. I'm going to tell you straight up. The Air Force doesn't need recon. Air Force Special Tactics teams need a recon capability in order to be successful in the future fight. So that's why we have recon. That's why there is no security forces recon teams. Okay. Because Air Force Special Operations in the next fight is going to need a recon capability. And that's what we engineered for the Special Recon Apprentice Course. Any follow-ons on that one?
Yeah. I missed a little bit of what you said because of technology, but we talk about problem solving all the time. I'm not sure if you talk about this, but you can't solve a problem if you're not in the space of the problem. And so that's what we're getting after. When we talk about airspace and all those other things that we need to dominate from the ground all the way up to the sun, you need to have all the data and you need to be in that space and have the capability to solve those problems, to own the air. So that's the way I see getting after it. And it's really hard to solve those problems if you can't get there and if you can't get out, you know?
Yeah. No, you're totally right. So that gets us through the pipeline. Congratulations. You put your beret on and now you're back at the bottom of the totem pole. Now you're just a crappy 3-level on a team. Well, I don't know if you're crappy. You might be. No,
we go to STTS, and STTS is awesome right now.
Right.
So that's where you get way more into the preparation of the environment stuff and some of the 3-level course will wet your beak to the foundational stuff. The 5-level course is going to wet your beak to like that secret swirl stuff, to where we start to get really vague about stuff that we talk about. Like we say electromagnetic and all these other things, but more long range shooting. You're going to go through iterations where you do show up to work in your civilian clothes and do different things, and maybe you're not on base all the time when you're doing these things, and getting after that and understanding how your skill set fits into the real world, and not just on a base, on a training range, getting trained to do what you do.
Yeah, STTS is Special Tactics Training Squadron. For now, it's down at Hurlburt Field, Florida, and this is a little bit different. When PJs graduate their pipeline, they go directly to their teams. When Special Reconnaissance and Combat Controllers graduate, they go to Special Tactics Training Squadron and then go through their next skill level upgrade. So some of the things, and again, this is the area where everybody wants us to just like open the book and show you everything and start using acronyms and be like, well, what exactly is that? Here's what we can say. Special Reconnaissance has the ability to not only do drone stuff, but do counter drone stuff. Okay. They have the ability to protect the team from drone incursions. We know that loitering munitions and drones that want to collect on us, we know that that's a problem in the future space. You're going to start getting the tools to protect your team against SWOS in this thing, and then employ our own drones, right? Which is highly used. I can tell you from personal experience, having an SR guy that is good at using the drones that we have is highly valuable. It's insanely valuable to a special tactics teams. Some of the other things that Trent alluded to, there are some teams out there in the Army that have a human capability. I will say that we have the same capability on our Air Force Special Tactics teams. It is not to the level of the CIA. You're not going to be Jason Bourne, right? But you are going to have a baseline of those skills that you're going to be able to use through a number of different training things. And you're going to be able to continue those skills underneath the umbrella of what we call special activities. Special reconnaissance airmen are heavily invested in those special activities. Can we tell you exactly what that is? No, because they're protected. So you can continue to ask, and you can continue to hit up the comment section and say you kind of know what this is, and you know what the acronym is. Okay, fine. Go out and find it for yourself if you want to know. That you can find it on Google, but that's just not our lane. But I'll tell you what, it is highly interesting. It's really, really hard. It's a hard problem set, and SR airmen are on the forefront of that problem set.
And you know, it's really like, and it's not just us. And I keep saying it, like, right. as we
PJ's
go through this period,
by the way, also do this thing. But yeah.
So everybody is going through this transition and coming out of a direct action war type of thing, and getting back to like a lot of the things that make us unique, and operating in the environments that we're going to be operating in, and getting used to it, and getting soft back to soft instead of, you know, like I think we went through the grinder for like 20 years. It's super exciting. So like if you're like, oh man, like why is SR doing this and no one else is? Like, everybody's doing this stuff. Everybody has to be in place to do their job, to solve the problems that they're trained for. So everybody has like their specialties, but there's a lot of, like we've talked about how many times, like there's a lot of crossover between the AFSCs. Like you're in the team room with these guys, you're training with everybody,
right? You
know, like you're going to pick up some additional skill sets. Obviously I'm not trying to drop bombs danger close or anything else like that, but like you hang out with enough controllers and JTACs and spend enough time on airfields, and you spend enough time with your PJ bros, like everything kind of like comes together. And if you have a team of guys that need to be in a certain place to do certain things, like that type of training that you need, not only to get there and to get out, but to be safe while you're there. Right. Everybody has to have that kind of training to do it. So
yeah, that's facts. And then my favorite question, which we're going to hit up here in a second, is like, what's the day-to-day like? I'll tell you, no matter what day it is in special tactics, and I know, like, just get your heart rate down. No matter what day it is in special tactics, you're going to need coffee to start that day. So head over to trenchcoffeeco.com and check out their amazing brands or their amazing blends of coffee. They're fantastic. They do an awesome stuff. So it's run by other special operator friends of ours over at trenchcoffeeco.com. Our code over there is at one's ready. So use that code at checkout. It's going to get you a sweet discount. I prefer the Cowboy blend. That stuff is fantastic because it's got enough caffeine in it to kill a horse, which is where my caffeine tolerance is these days. So they're awesome. There's also a function you can go over. If you just go over again to trenchcoffeeco.com, you can actually send a bag downrange. So you can, no kidding, buy a bag for it's called Trench to Troops. And you can actually buy a bag. It's only $10 right now. And you can throw a bag out. You get a bag, and then somebody downrange gets a bag. I have been lucky enough on my last deployment. Trench hooked it up the entire time I was there. I did not go a single day in that team room without some coffee from trenchcoffeeco.com. So shout out to those dudes. They're awesome dudes, out of Vegas proper, and those guys are amazing. So go check them out for all your coffee needs. But Trent, what's a battle rhythm like for an SR guy once you get on team?
You know, like when we talk about day to day, I always just want to go back to the holistic thing. Like, your day is what you make it.
Yep.
There are things that you have to do, and then there are things that, opportunities that are there that you need to be seizing. Like whether you're looking to get into the community or you're in the community, like that's what it is. So like you got to, set your routines for certain things that, knock out what you can, your workouts, if you're home station, and then seize all those opportunities for training or to get after the next problem set. And that's all it is. It's always being focused on the next problem set and moving towards solutions, whether you're in the dev pool or whether you're on team. So yep. I know that sounds super vague to everybody, like, oh, but what is it like? Like, this is not a community where someone is going to hand you a problem with all of the data that needs to be solved.
Right.
Like, as an individual, it's a very individualistic community. I think that's why it's such a hard question for me to answer, is that someone's going to be like, hey, like, I think this is a problem. Like, do you know, like, how are we going to get after this? And then you and your buddies, or you by yourself, you all get together and you start figuring these things out. You figure out what you need to know and then how to get after these solutions. So, I mean, that's why you're listening to this podcast right now. If you're out there and you're thinking about getting into dev, is you're gathering data to start solving the problems that you see in your life to get in the community. Like, once you get on team, it's the same thing. It's just having that mindset to get after problems and to have the skill sets and to build the skill sets to solve those problems for yourself and for your teammates. Like, that's what every day is. And then get out there and perform.
And I'll lay it out as cleanly as I possibly can, right? So coming out of the pipeline, you're going to be a 5 level. You're only going to one of the 2 series units. So right now, SR is not in ACC. SR is only in AFSOC. So you're going to go to the 2-1, the 2-2, the 2-3, or the 2-6. Okay. So there you go. You're not going to go overseas. Maybe if you're like a cross trainee, or if some wacky thing happens and you can go over to one of the overseas STSs, okay, fine. But this is the 99% is you're going to go to one of the 2 series units.
Yeah.
You're going to show up. You're going to work out every day under the watchful eye of your human performance optimization staff, and you're going to go through your training for whatever your team is getting ready to do. Okay. The day-to-day is going to be working on a mix of core skills and full mission profiles and advanced employment capabilities. It just depends on where you are in the cycle. How long can you expect to spend at your unit before you start that ramp up to your first deployment?
I mean, it depends on where they are in the cycle,
right.
and what's going on in the world. Like, I know I gave like the big picture answer, like, oh, mindset, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, hey man, like you go to the 2 series units, like, what are you doing? Like, you would know better than I do, but like, we have guys that show up and it's like, hey, jump into this pre-deployment training.
You got 6 months. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you show up and the team's gone. So it's 2 ends of the spectrum, right? Like we have a 20-month training cycle that is not, and it's 24 months now. But there's a 24-month training cycle. So we just changed it. You're going to prepare individually and then as a team and then work with joint partners. And then you're going to go downrange. Wherever it is that you graduate, we try to time these up, and we try to, like, there is some method to this madness. We don't just shotgun blast the SR people across. We look at like, where are the teams deployed? Where could these students, or where, now 5-level airmen, where can these 5 levels be best utilized? Where are these units in their training cycle? It doesn't make any sense to send 3 or 4 SR guys to the 2-2 if everybody's deployed. Yeah. Right. So the people that are making these decisions understand that intimately. And then they go, oh, okay, cool. Maybe we should send them to the 2-3 because they have enough time. So you're going to be able to immediately jump into your team's training cycle. You're going to work on your core skills first, right? Shoot, move, communicate are the basic food groups of every single special operator. When you hit your unit, we add that 4th one, and shout out to Colonel Matt Allen. Shoot, move, communicate, lead. Those are the 4 things that every single Air Force special operator does: is shoot, move, communicate, lead. And then we start adding in our specific skill sets. And for SR, those specific skill sets are all housed inside of those recon skills, right? Your SWOS, your counter SWOS, that long distance shooting, that, oceanographic. I don't know what that word was. What the water, you look at water and figure out how to do stuff. So you're taking information from the environment and giving it to your team in order for them to have success, help in mission planning. And then you're working all the way through those skills and integrating into your team. So let's say, Trent, there's a mission that comes up and you're on an ST team and it's a recovery mission. What does an SR guy do on that mission?
Well, it's funny you would ask, because you want the data for where you're going, right? Like, so say like you're going on a recovery mission, but like it depends on the environment and the terrain and everything else of where we're going. Like if you drop like an STT, when you're offset by like, 10 kilometers or whatever it is, and you can throw up a SWOS and see where you're going. And also if you can detect things that could or could not be threats in the environment that you're in, and keep your team safe, and then provide like best routes and all this other stuff, and inform your team leader on courses of action, like that's what you're going to be doing. You can also have that reach out capability to keep your team safe while they're heads down doing whatever else they need to do. Like it's not like that PJ doesn't have the capability to reach out and touch someone with a rifle, but like that's not his job. Like if there's a medical situation, that like ropes and all this other stuff, nerd stuff, or if someone finds some pomade out in the woods, like the SR guy is going to have to be looking somewhere else and doing his job, thinking about the stuff that other people don't have the time to think about. What
a great day. I wish I was on some sort of recovery mission and just came across some Outer Eggs pomade. Do you know how happy I would? That's going right into the old cargo pocket, not maybe a dump pouch. And that's exciting. And people get wrapped around the axle all the time. They're like, well, what if you don't need an SR guy? What are you talking about? I always need another gun. I always need I'm taking my whole team every single time that I've ever done a mission. Okay. And let's say, for the sake of me not getting flamed on the internet, let's say I had one mission in my entire career. And that one mission, when I do my mission planning, I'm like, how many people can I bring?
Yep.
That's always what I'm asking. I'm like, can I bring the whole team for this? They're like, do you need the whole team? I'm like, if you want it done in 10 minutes, yeah. Could I do it with 2 dudes? Sure, I suppose, but it's going to take 6 hours. How about I bring 12 dudes that I trust that I've been training with for 24 months and we come out? They're like, well, and in some weird scenario where somebody's like, well, you don't even need recon. This is pretty cut and dry. Well, I need another rifle. I need a guy that I know went through the same training that I did. I need a guy next to me that I know that if the shit hits the fan, I know exactly what he's going to do because he lives and breathes in the team room that I breathe in. So, saying like, well, we're going to do an airfield survey. Well, you don't necessarily need PJs for that. Well, okay. Unless something wacky happens and somebody has a life-threatening injury, and then you're going to be like, oh, I guess we did need them. But even if you didn't, even if that didn't happen, you'd still want that extra rifle on the ground. You still want that extra operator there.
Yeah, we are break glass in case of emergency type folks. Like that's what we exist for. So like to think that you're going to be moving into an environment where you know everything and it's going to go cleanly the whole way. Like you're telling me like once everybody starts leaving that plane to get down on that airfield or to get down on that rescue mission, that everything's going to go exactly the way that we planned it out. That's insane. That's
insane. Every plan is only as good as the first contact. Everybody, Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yeah. And these things are true. And it might not necessarily be like a gunfight. It might not necessarily be a life-threatening injury. You might get on the ground and you might look around and go, no, none of this is right. There was something wrong in planning. We got fed some bad information. We didn't do it right. Like you might need those exquisite skills that an SR guy has in order to make that mission happen. Let's talk about them. What's up?
Sometimes the helicopter drops you at the wrong location.
No,
how do you solve that?
Leader. That's team leader number one, baby. You know exactly where you are geolocated to a 10-digit coordinate, and you know where you're going. Sorry, that's helicopter 101.
I'm just saying, like in the past 20 years, like these are things that have happened. Like guys have like come out the back of a helicopter on an air landing and start running towards a building, and there's been Air Force guys that are being like, hey, that's not the building that we're supposed to be going towards.
That's a bad building. No. bad building. All right. So let's talk about some of those additional skills that you're going to get throughout your career. So, we've talked about everything from the day to day through your deployment. Let's talk about some of those advanced skills. You're going to be able to go to sniper school. You're going to go and have that long range engagement courses. Because it's in your stuff. What other courses can you go to? Can you be a jump master as a special reconnaissance airman?
Oh, Aaron, are you asking this? Yes. I'm sorry.
I'm not asking you.
I know. It's for all of our favorite people out there in internet land. Yeah. I mean, just like, I don't know how many times I can, like, jump master, tandem jumping, all your dive quals, is it called a dive master? Because
dive soup.
Is that we don't call it a dive master because of the watch? Is that what killed it?
No, it is. Yeah. The oyster dive master. No, dive supervisor is the qualification and position.
But all your fast roping, rappelling, all these other things, any of the quals that are out there that you can get, like, airfield survey qualifications, there's a million quals that you can get out there as long as you have the time and a decent reason to get after these things. We always need more jump masters. We always need, more people to lead every iteration of training. So you're going to get out there and you're going to get it. Additional reconnaissance courses, right? And MSO courses and all those other things.
And here's where subject matter enthusiast turns into subject matter expert, right? So now we're able to take those skills that we had that we really care about and we really worked hard to develop. And now we're going to have those skills rounded out. And if you fall in love with long distance shooting and you want to be the long distance shooting expert on your team, guess what? We have a space for you. If you fall in love with jumping and you love free fall and you love tandem and you're the best tandem delivery master on the face of the planet, great. You can be an SR guy and do that. The other thing that we're going to expect you to do is lead. So there is and people kind of gloss over this because we don't talk about it a whole lot, but in special tactics, you can have an SR guy that is a troop chief or a flight chief. You can have an SR guy that leads its own element. So we kind of gloss over it and people talk about SR and they're like, well, yeah, it's this really cool, like multi-tool sort of thing where the team leader can reach back and go, oh, get me the SR guy. Newsflash, everybody. You could be leading one of these special tactics teams.
Well, that's like a lot. If you read the description of like your sniper courses, that's a team leader course.
It is.
That's not, it's more about, it's not just the glassing and the shooting. It's understanding how to employ your force. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we're getting after. That's why it's a 7-level requirement. Like, I want you to get the glass time. I want you to get the shooting time, but I also want you to understand, you know, how to lead people, how to employ people correctly, and how to get the job done and get your people back home.
Right.
So it's very important.
Let me clarify something. Not any idiot can pass a sniper course. It's a very hard course. That's not what I was about to say. And any idiot can do their primary skills and be good. It takes a real master and a real leader to be able to see the capability that they have and then place it on the team where it gets the best battlefield effects. And you can do that as an SR airman all the way through your career, right? We're getting all these cool skills and we're layering them on top and we're doing all these things. It's really to when you get into those leadership positions, you're intimately aware of, okay, you know what? This mission calls for precision fires. I know where to put the best person to have those precision fires lay. Okay, I might need an overwatch position. I know for a fact that this is the best place for a shooting team to go into this overwatch position. And you're going to be given those opportunities to grow and put all those tools in your toolbox till eventually you're the team leader. You're not going to be the one on the gun your entire career, right? Now I want to talk about, Trent, how long can you expect to be really on the teams as an SR airman before you're moving on and doing those higher level things? Can
I touch on the planning and leadership thing a little bit?
Absolutely not. This is a podcast where we don't explore ideas.
I think one of the really cool things, I ignored that. One of the really cool things about our community is because like there's problems with us being siloed a little bit, right? And all of us wearing different color berets.
Right.
But when you are like a team sergeant and you're planning something and you have a combat controller that's been to 2 or 3 different STSs and been on a bunch of deployments, you have a PJ that's maybe even been an ACC, RQS, and then been an AFSOC side, and maybe even have a TAC-P in the room, and you have some SR guys. Like the amount of knowledge that goes into that mission planning process or any problem solving process that you have, like the different perspectives. I think one of the things that makes our community so successful is those very precise perspectives that go into everything, and the leadership's ability to like open up the door and be open to everybody's input because of the way that we operate. So I'm not saying that other soft teams are not that way, but it's a little, they're structured differently, and they're all like, I'm a SEAL, you're a SEAL. It's like, no, like I'm an SR guy, you're a PJ. Like we're bros. Right. But like if my PJ comes in and is like, hey, during this phase of the operation, like these are things that you need to consider. Yeah. Like I'm listening to that dude. And I think it brings a lot of goodness to having those like very technical, very specific capabilities across the board and the way that we look at things. I just think it's pretty cool.
Well, and a great example of that, and I saw this firsthand. One of my SR guys, we were on a full mission profile, and there was a patient that was at the bottom of a hill. And us as PJs, we're like, all right, tight, time to tie this rope system, time to figure out how to access the patient or draw him up. SR guy's like, hey, give me a second. Launched a drone, went down, looked at the patient, looked around, was like, don't need to. There's actually a little path that we can walk down right here. We could package him up, and there's a path where we can walk out, and you don't even have to hang anybody off a rope. And I was like, not only did he make it infinitely faster, it took him about 2 minutes to get that drone up, not joking, 2 minutes to get the drone up, visualize the patient, tell me what was wrong with the patient, no kidding, and then tell me that we could access the patient in a different manner. That's how you access. And by the way, my controller is working air exfil all at the same time, the entire time. And then everybody else that doesn't have work, you know what they were doing? Providing security, getting bags together, making sure that we're ready for the movement so that when I said, hey, it's time to move, everybody was like, yeah, roger that. We're ahead of you. We were just waiting on you to tell us to go. So, man, that feels like a good place to end it.
Yeah.
It just feels
it all
good.
Comes together.
It all comes together. And that's how we wanted to talk about special reconnaissance because we were constantly getting questions about it. Hopefully it answered some of your questions. More importantly, I hope it raised some more questions. So leave them in the comment section down below. We'll make sure to chock this thing full of all of the carbs and previous episodes that we've done. So you have a holistic look at every single thing that you could possibly need to know about becoming a special warfare airman, specifically for special reconnaissance. But I want to end with gratitude as always. Thanks for coming out, staying with us, following the stuff that we do. Go to onesready.com. All of our links are there, the reading list, everything you could possibly need to know, along with our partners. We talked about Trench and we talked about 18 Alpha Fitness. Go check them out. 18 Alpha Fitness, the code is 1READY, the number 1 and then ready. And then for Trench Coffee Co., go to trenchcoffeeco.com, and that's one's ready at checkout to get a sweet discount. We appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It really does help us out. We would like to continue this momentum that we've got going. We appreciate you. Trent, I'm going to hit you with it. what's your advice to anybody trying to be an SR airman?
Educate yourself. That's it.
Tight.
Like it all starts with education. You can't be truly motivated about stuff if you don't know anything about it. So
you're right.
Educate yourself. Focus on the next step. Keep like your focus on your front sight post. Everything else beyond that is blurry for a reason. And just focus on that front sight post so that you can accomplish that first goal.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Have a great week. Go train hard, and we'll see you
later.